Welcome to Crosstown Cardboard, episode 9. I'm Carmine at Carmine's Cards, the broadcaster, news and sports, and taking a sip of water is the soccer coach, Craig, at New York City Sports Cards. He's loose, he's ready to go. And today, Craig, we're talking about a little clickbaity title, When It's Time to Move On from a Card. And so that can mean a lot of different things, a little ambiguous. So before we get into it, we want to remind people, if you like what you're hearing, like and subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening on podcasts, give us a 5-star rating if you think we deserve it, and subscribe. We're not making any money, of course, off of this, but we just want to reach as many people as we can, continue to pump some positivity and some community into the sports card hobby that's already so great, and just meet new people. And so, Craig, before we dive into when it's time to move on from a card, we have to start with the somber news that USA's run in the World Cup has come to an end.
So here you are talking about pumping positivity, and you have to remind me that Team USA lost. By the way, that would be a good slogan. We don't pump cars, we pump positivity. So put that in the tickling pile. But yeah, USA lost on Saturday. The funny thing was, going into work this week, and all of my students talking smack, like, "Oh, mister, how you feeling? Oh, Team USA's out." So I'm like, look, the game happens Saturday. I had 48 hours to consume content, digest, and get over the loss. So that was your window of opportunity to talk smack. I'm over it. I'm on to 2026. I'm excited to see our guys play in their respective teams and leagues. It's all good. We got outclassed by Netherlands. A learning experience.
Why are they talking smack? They're also Americans. Like, we're on the same team, are we not? Or are they just digging at you?
Digging at me because they know I'm a big fan. 2, I teach a very diverse group of students. So of the World Cup countries represented amongst my student population, we had Spain, Ecuador, Mexico, Senegal, Morocco, US. I could be missing some. So,
oh my gosh, that's great.
Why it's been so fun. Like, I let my students watch the World Cup in class because there's not much like this, where everyone's, a lot of people's cultures and countries are represented all in one sports tournament.
Yeah, no, that's great. Oh man, I didn't know it was that. I mean, I knew it was diverse being in New York City, but that is awesome. Okay, so now we're going to talk about card related to the U.S. men's national team, and it ties in perfectly to our theme, when it's time to move on from a card. And it's actually a card that you picked up and mentioned in the last episode. So what happened there, and your rationale, if you could explain?
Yeah, I'm excited to get into when it's time to move on from a card, because I think, like you said, it has a lot of ambiguity, and we'll get into some examples. But first, a card I had picked up about 3 weeks ago is, and I alluded to this last time, is a Christian Pulisic 2016 Select Emerging Stars rookie autograph. Yes, it's on sticker, but it's a nice autograph. It's a 10. This is the copper out of 49 in his USA kit, and it pairs really nicely with, from the same set, also 2016 Select. This is field level, also the copper out of 49. So I got a little dual copper out of 49, 2 Pulisic rookie cards. And here's a hot take that I have. I think this World Cup solidified Pulisic as an investment, because I think he had a great tournament, and he's going to be the face of U.S. soccer for the next decade.
And he had that iconic goal to keep the U.S. going and advance them into the knockout round. That was awesome. He's definitely, it seems like, the guy to collect on the U.S.
soccer, no doubt. My other pickup, small one here, but a Neymar 2018 Prism World Cup in a silver PSA 10. Just nice looking card, a lot of shine to it. And Neymar's back and healthy. And my God, Brazil looks good.
Yeah,
they are world class. We are so far away from them in terms of talent, but yeah, it's a joy to watch.
They made South Korea look like they shouldn't have been on the same field.
Yeah, no, they're the real deal. But tell me about your pickups. You're always making moves.
Okay, well, before we get into, I love how we're continuing to tease this subject. We're keeping the people waiting a little bit. So remember last episode, our lovely viewers and listeners, how I was talking about starting a JJ Redick PC, and being comfortable with our collection was the theme of that one. And inspired by our buddy Rob at Sports Card Therapist about starting a side PC, which he's done with John Stockton and Phil the Scooter Rizzuto. Mine was JJ Redick, and you can go back and get more of an in-depth look on that. So after our last episode aired, one of my buddies hit me up at PJ's Cards. Great guy. We've done deals before. And he said, hey, I have this JJ Redick card, which I'm holding up on the Crosstown Cardboard YouTube.
Dude,
and I said, yeah. And he said, I got this card. Just wanted to know if you're interested. And I said, yeah, that's great. How much are you looking for on it? Because I'm starting this JJ Redick PC. He said, oh, don't worry about it. Just take it. I'll send it to you. And I was like,
that's what we love to see.
I was like, oh, man. And so I was like, man, that's so nice. Just another great thing about our hobby, Mount Rushmore, flashing back to one of our earlier episodes, the connections that you make to where it's like a buddy of mine that we've done deals with before knows I'm starting a genuine PC, not looking to move any JJ Redick cards. And he's like, hey, I have this one. It's not really doing me any good. You know, it's maybe like a $25 card. So why don't you just have it? And I was like, man, that's so great. I'm definitely going to shout you out. So at PJ's Card sent me this immaculate JJ Redick in his Duke uniform, auto, numbered out of 49. And that is going right into the PC with my other two that we featured on the last
you know what I like about that card? I think generally speaking with cards, college uniforms are less sought after, right? You know, but JJ Redick might be the exception to that rule.
Yeah. There's very few guys, like you said, that would be more desirable in their college uniform.
You think JJ Redick and Duke. So to have a Duke card-specific autograph is awesome. You think about his runs in the tournament. As you've talked about before, him speaking up about mental health during his sophomore year. He dives into it in his podcast. But right now we're focused on this podcast. And so thanks again to PJ's Cards. Very thoughtful gift. And now we're going to talk about what really – we were discussing what are we going to talk about on episode 9. And once you talked about this move, I was like, well, let's talk about when it's time to move on from a card. I can't wait to hear your breakdown of this move. Yeah, so we have the next 2 episodes are going to be special, nice and lined up. But right now, going on to the theme, when is it time to move on to a card? And I had 2 recent occurrences that are different but still tie into the theme. And one of them was, obviously, I'm a U.S. men's national team collector. I love Christian Pulisic, and I have a lot of his cards. But I'm also caught up in the World Cup hype. And I was going to purchase, someone gave me a great offer, 2018 Eminence Soccer is a very high-end brand. Christian Pulisic, on-card autograph in gold ink, numbered out of 5. And it has one of those Eminence diamonds in it. Well, I say nice. Diamonds in quotes. Apparently it's some like BS gem or whatever it is.
Cubic zirconium?
Yes, someone else used that exact phrase, and I had no idea what it meant. So if you looked at comps, someone offered me $750, which was a really fair deal. And he's like, I'll let you know when it comes in. But if you don't want it, I'll move on from it. So that gave me about a week to think about it. And I'm like, I like this card. It's Christian Pulisic, an athlete I like. It's an on-card autograph. The price seems right. But I didn't immediately pay the guy. So I reached out to some friends. And one of the friends I reached out to was Andrew at St. Croix Cards. Croix spelled like LeCroix, like the seltzer. So Croix, St. Croix Cards, Andrew. He makes amazing soccer content videos for slab stocks. And I reached out with this card. I said, here's this high-end set. It's Pulisic. It's on card. It's a gold autograph. It's out of 10. Here's the price. Tell me what you think. And he kind of threw it back to me, and he said, why don't you go back to your Mount Rushmore and tell me if this card, because he's a listener of the pod, so shout out Andrew. And if you go back to our episode, Mount Rushmore of what we look for in a card, does it check all the boxes?
Right.
So I'm like, wow, that's a really good point. You put this back on me. And it's a player I collect, check. It's a good-looking card, check. But the factor that it was missing was that X factor. And I don't know what it was, but there was something about this autograph card that just, it wasn't reeling me all the way in. And as I was back and forth for about a week, thinking about if I want to buy this card for $750, just the fact that I was having my doubts was enough for me to say, you know what? If I'm not all in, then I'm out. So I decided to pass. I have $750 that I could save maybe for a future show. And now that a few days have gone by, I'm glad I didn't pick that card up, because I think when you're looking to buy a card, big or small, if you're having any sense of doubt, it's time to move on.
Okay, so that's one of the big things for you is if the doubt creeps in. And I know you mentioned that in our Wolfpack group chat on Instagram, which has 3 new members at Cousins Collectibles, our guys who we've shouted out a bunch of times. Oz _ peoples _ mailman, and Shane at Sports Card Nobody. So welcome to the group, fellas. And you mentioned that in our Wolfpack group chat, how when that little, now how much doubt, what's the doubt threshold, or is it any doubt for you to have to
Enough
move on from the card?
enough for me to have to reach out to multiple people about their opinion.
Okay.
Usually, when I see a card I like, I trust my own instincts, and I know something about it it was holding me back. So, do I regret not getting it now that I see that it's sold? I don't have no regrets, no regrets. So I think the lesson to be learned here: when you have that doubt about buying a card, there's some reason you're not all in, then maybe it's not the card for you for whatever reason, price, the card itself, but doesn't mean I'm done buying Pulisic. Just at that moment, that wasn't the one for me.
And how much, and I know your buddy Andrew mentioned this, how much of that doubt was fueled by these cards are on fire right now with the US being in the World Cup, and it's probably going to go down in value a little bit after the World Cup? How much of that doubt was fueled by that?
Not entirely, because I'm not really a flipper. It wasn't a card I was going to quickly buy and flip. It was something I was going to hold. And I thought to myself, I have a feeling there's going to be better cards of that player that pop up over the next 4 years as I look ahead to 2026.
Okay. So that's your point, is when the doubt creeps in that's when it's time to move on. So I have a point, if I may, Craig, about when it was time to move on for me, about when the inventory or the cards that you have or your collection becomes a little bit stale. Like you're sending out potential trades, let's say on Facebook and Instagram, and people aren't hitting you up about that card. It's just kind of sitting there. You like it, but every once in a while, it's just like, I've had this card, I've enjoyed it, and its time is up. And it seems like you want to shuffle the deck a little bit and refresh. And for me, one thing that I've noticed that when it's time to move on a little bit is when I have too many guys who are retired. I knew I wanted to get younger in my collection with more current guys, not like unproven guys, not really prospecting, but just guys to where it's like, okay, I can watch this guy
You can
and see
actively
them
watch.
perform. Yeah, exactly. And you
See
can
the
bet
growth
on
right
that.
before your eyes.
Yes, right before your eyes. And this is a guy we've actually literally seen grow. I think he's grown a few inches since getting into the NBA. Your boy Giannis Antetokounmpo. So let me break down this trade with Jonathan at Collectible Hits on Instagram. Great
I have
guy.
not seen this Giannis yet, correct?
You have not seen this, and I kept it from you to get your reaction live on the Crosstown Cardboard podcast. Okay, so let me tell you first what I've traded away, and we'll pull up these photos on the Crosstown Cardboard YouTube. My Bill Russell Optic Contenders Auto, SGC 1010. It was a pop 1, numbered to 25. So these are the ones I've traded away. I know. My Dr. J 2014 Prism Gold Pulsar PSA 10, numbered 210. That was a pop 1. My Dirk Silhouettes Auto, numbered out of 49, game used jersey on card auto. Gronk Panini 1 on card auto, numbered to 10. Magic and D Rose dual auto, numbered to 39. That's Derrick Rose rookie year.
Topps Treasury.
Yes, that was the great one that you had pointed out from your expertise. Skybox Autographics, one of both of our favorite sets. Clyde Drexler Auto SGC 95. And finally, one of the ones that I also showed off on our YouTube is the Carmelo Anthony game used patch with part of the Knicks logo, numbered to 25. So that is a lot of things that I traded away, and it'll be easier to follow on our YouTube again. So I'm not going to go through all. I got a few smaller cards that I kind of completed the deal. But the couple big ones I'll show it to you, Craig, and you've already seen this one. This Drew Brees flawless on-card auto, 1 of 1, true 1 of 1, not the white box.
I didn't realize that was a 1-1.
It's a 1 of 1, yes.
Nice.
So I got that one.
Flawless.
I also got and a flawless true 1 of 1.
You get what you pay for with Flawless aesthetically. They
Oh,
look clean.
oh, I mean, you could show this to, like, I show this to my girlfriend. She knows it's like the Rolls Royce of cards. You could just
Yeah, I'm
tell.
sure she totally cares.
She gives me the fake, haha, nice pickup. So, I also picked up, which I'll pull up on our YouTube, also a picture of David Lee, Topps Chrome rookie gold refractor, numbered at a 99, BGS 95.
Wow.
So
I
it's
didn't see
probably
that
like
one. David Lee.
no, I'll have to show you a picture. It's it's an awesome David Lee card, which you pulled up your David Lees
Two
that you
David
got.
Lee cards in a few weeks. Shout out to the former Knicks, huh?
Yes, we love our Knicks. We're true to the New York City sports cards, if you will. And here's the one I really wanted your reaction on that I just picked up in this trade that we thought was about a $3,500 value on each side.
Ooh.
This Giannis sneaker spotlight, numbered at a 99, on card auto, noir, sealed, of the Greek Freak.
I am a huge fan of the sneaker spotlight set.
And
So bravo to you. Or tell me he's wearing his signature shoe. Like the freaks.
I think he is. It's his Nike, and on the he
The
has
Nike.
an inscription on the shoe. It says, "A man on God's mission."
See, you want to talk about a car that's aesthetically pleasing? The sneaker spot, one of the cool sets of like modern products, the Noir sneaker spotlight, and you got an on-card autograph, and that's out of you said 99, 49?
99.
I like that one a lot. He did good.
Thanks, Craig. So it's about I would say about a 2K card, but I'm so excited to have a bigger card, like you said, of a cool set of somebody who's currently playing. That was my big thing because, like, I want to follow a few more guys who are still playing. So, like you said, you can have a rooting interest. You can say, "Oh, look at the Greek Freak go! I got a big Greek Freak card. Let me root for him to win another MVP, another Finals MVP, another title," and just kind of cheer somebody on. So that's what I wanted to do: mix up the inventory, get a little bit younger. And here's what kind of brings it full circle too. So I had that Drew Brees flawless 1 of 1. And I know that our boy Mikey at Mikey's underscore cards, who we also shout out a lot on the podcast, is a big Drew Brees fan. So I immediately hit him up actually before the deal with at Collectible Hits, Jonathan, was even completed. And I said, "Hey, would you be interested in this card?" So he said, "Yeah." And so check this out. Before that deal was even done, I closed the deal with Mikey for some cards that I really like, which is this Larry Bird flawless on card auto, numbered out of 15, PSA 9 with a 10 auto, which, Larry is one of my big guys, as you can see in the photo here. Magic, who's my other, one of my other favorite guys, on card auto, Panini 1, numbered out of 25, chunky game used patch, barely 3 colors.
I see the yellow on the bottom there. That's 3 colors. We're giving it to you.
Thank you. The Russian judge approves. And and then this final one is a Barry Sanders flawless on card auto, numbered 5 out of 5, Hall of Fame, with the bust of his Hall of Fame induction.
You got all those 4 for the Breeze.
I got these 3: the Bird, the Barry, and the Magic. I added 100 to the Breeze for those 3. So that was around an $1,100 or so value that we did a deal on for Mikey's cards. And I talked to them, made sure it was okay that we discussed, some of the specifics. But just to pay that off, Craig, when I mixed it up, got a little younger, just changed it up, shuffled the inventory, had some new cards to look at, all of a sudden it came full circle to where now I got the guys who I really like, which are Bird and Magic, just being based on when it's time to move on from a card and taking that leap to where it's like, I don't know what's going to happen by trying to move these cards. But I mean, to have one pre-traded away for what I wanted was a huge, really sealed the deal to make that other trade go through to begin with.
So the lesson here is when it's time to move on from a card is when it's been stale and you kind of feel like you need to shake things up and change up your inventory a little bit.
Exactly.
Sometimes you get bored of stuff. Obviously there's exceptions. Like look at that Tiger Woods behind you. How could you get bored of that?
Right.
Iconic card.
Right. No, I'm definitely not bored of that, but I'm also open to offers. I mean, if ever the right offer comes along, I'm not advocating like, offer me now on our Instagram, but I'm saying, just being open to it possibly being the right time to move a card could be another thing, like what happened to you.
Yeah. So you're so good at transitions. My God, you must be a broadcaster. Just last week, we talked about how I picked up the Tim Weah, who's on the U.S. national team printing plate from Alex's MVP on the Upper East Side. And I enjoyed getting that card, but I would call that almost a temporary high. Okay. I come from that card show. I need a little more action. Oh, this is super cool. Tim Weah just scored that goal. Great. I don't really love printing plates, even though it's a 101.
Yeah.
So I listed it on eBay just more for higher than I thought I would. I paid 80 cash and I listed it on eBay for 200 just for the fun of it. I don't really list a lot on eBay. And within a few days, I got an offer for $187, which I accepted. When someone doesn't pay for 24 hours in today's market, you assume that they're going to be a non-payer. But the payment went through and I netted 160. So even though it was a card I liked, it's not like this is a card that was going to be a long-term investment for me. But I was able to pick it up for 80 cash and sell it and net 160. So when is it time to move on from a card? If you're not totally in love with it and you're able to double your profit or double your investment in 3 days, for me, it was time to move on from that card.
Yeah. And I love how much of a true collector you are, because when you got that offer, you messaged me and said, hey, what do you think about me accepting this? I know I mentioned it on the podcast and I just picked it up and it's a great card. And then before I woke up here on the West Coast in Southern Oregon, now living here, you said, I accepted it. And I was like, yeah, you got to accept that. I mean, to double your money in a few days.
Yeah. From 80 to 160. And it's okay because I still have that hobby story. How I bought the card, I was walking home with it, and I ran into my buddy Al, who drove me to National. He drove past me on the street. I still have that story to tell. And you could find that story in episode 8 of Crosstown Cardboard.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Love the plug. And I feel the same way. That's why I always, and I would love to get your take on this. I always put all my cards, I mean, other than the JJ Redick, which is not going to be like super valuable anyway, but I love it as a PC item. I always put my higher value cards like this Tiger or other cards that I really like in my showcase, and I might price them way higher than comps. Or, if I had, like, let's say this Tiger, like last sold is like 6K. But if I put a 7.5K price tag on there, and somebody's willing to pay, above comps or around comps, I might be like, okay, now we're talking. But for somebody to break through that wall of, I see he has it priced high, I'm still going to ask about it because I'm very interested. That opens you up to hitting the value, similar to what you mentioned with the Tim Weah card. If somebody hits that value on that card, it's time to move on because that's such a good offer, and the Italian in me would say that's an offer you can't refuse.
Unless I would say if there's a card I've had for a long time. So here's an example. I was just looking at this one. I am a Mets fan, but I have this 2007 Upper Deck Spectrum Derek Jeter patch autograph. Game worn. Everything was game worn then. I had probably talked about this card on here before, but yeah, quite the New York City card. I pulled this myself and I graded it. So let's just say I'm into this card for $100. I could 5, 6, 7x my money, but I've had it for so long that now there's an emotional connection to it. I hope I'm never in a position where I have to, but I just had it for so long that I'm not really interested in the flip. Something I bought a little more recently that I haven't had the chance to, like, it's mine, it's in my collection forever. If you have the chance to double your money and it's not a card you're totally attached to, move on from it. Take the money, buy something else you like.
Right. So that's like a when not to move on from a card. Mm-hmm. As far as like if you have that deep emotional tie to it, and where it's part of your collection, and you can feel it too. Like, I feel like a big part of the hobby is the feel. Like, you see a card, and one of my things on the Mount Rushmore, going back to that older episode, is the first impression. You get that feel like, ooh, like I saw that Magic Panini 1 patch, and I'm like, ooh, man, I really like that card. So, like, your first impression, or it could be reversed to where, what would my first impression be if I traded this card away, or if I sold this card? Like, how would you feel the second after closing a deal on that Derek Jeter? Let's say you get whatever, $700 or $500, whatever it's worth. And how would you feel if you let that go, knowing that it's your childhood card that you
Oh
pulled?
man, yeah. I'm fortunate, and is what I always say. You really hope to be in a position in life where you don't have to sell these things. I'm lucky that I don't need the $500, $600, $700 I can get from that Jeter to survive right now, and I hope I never have to, because I get to enjoy it, and it ties me back to being at Cardboard Memories in East Northport on Long Island, right across from McDonald's. As my guy Brian, who works in the store, gave me the pack, I remember exactly where I was when I opened it. So that memory is tied to this card. I don't want to let it go.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I love how invested you are with, like, the stories and the connections. I mean, it's so true and genuine. And I wanted to bring up this card, card I just got, which is also, symbolic of when it's time to move on from a card, is when you can sell it to a buddy for a good price. Like, I picked up this card, this Odell Beckham true RPA immaculate rookie on card auto with a patch numbered out of 99. And I'm like, I really want to hold this for when hopefully he gets picked up by another team, like he did with the Rams late last year. Cowboys has been one of the big talk.
I'm hearing Cowboy stuff.
That would be unbelievable. I think he would be great for the Cowboys. I know Jerry Jones is, like, excited, putting some little tidbits into the media to try and put some feelers out there and get him. So I just got this, and I'm like, let me hold it until he gets picked up. Maybe some buzz gets around him. I can be invested in the Odell Beckham circus to pick him up and see if he can contribute to a Super Bowl like what he did with the Rams last year, unfortunately tearing his ACL in the Super Bowl. But he did catch a touchdown before that and was great for them at the end of the year. And so my boy Alec at primetimecards.lv, love talking to Alec. He's a huge soccer guy, listener of the Crosstown Cardboard.
I know he's a supporter of us. He likes a lot of our content. So shout out to Primetime LA.
Yes. He's a big supporter of USA Soccer, although a little bit of a pessimist. I was like, what's our chance to beat Netherlands? He's like 20%. I'm like, but he's a realist. He's a realist. I respect it. I respect Alec. He's got some great takes. Always talk to him. And he's like, I need that Odell when it comes in. I'm like, okay. So I just sold it to him for a good price, and happy to move on from that. So another one, when it's time to move on, is when it makes sense for both people. Like, you can move it to a buddy. Why wait to hold on for the Odell Beckham circus when I can continue a connection with a guy who I've loved talking to in Alec, and he's a supporter of the show, listener of the show. And it's just like, there was no negotiation. I gave him a good price. He said, yeah, that's great. And, that's one of the really nice marks of when it's a good deal, is when somebody, like, both people meet in a place where nobody's trying to get one over on the other person.
It's a sneaky little thing that I enjoy about being a dealer and about the hobby, is when you sell a card to a friend and it's a card they like because they collect them, and I'm very open with them about what I paid. So I'm thinking about one example, Zola Cards on Instagram. He's a regular at Bleecker Trading Events, New York City guy. He's actually good friends with the former from the assistant principal from the former high school that I worked at. Zola Cards, and he shouted us out last week. And I remember we were at a show, and he's a big Sadio Mane fan, and I had this. It was a Topps Chrome, I want to say blue refractor and a PSA 10, and he saw that at my table. I knew he would like it, so he picked it up. I'm like, I paid 60, take it for 80. And I like the transparency when making deals with friends, because I'm like, look, This is exactly what I paid. I know it's going to belong in your collection. Here's what I paid. I make a little bit. You get a card you like, still at a good price. Everybody wins. So the transparency of when doing deals with friends. I think it's fun.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. So we have when the inventory is stale, as far as recapping when it's time to move on. The inventory feels a little stale. You like your card, but you just want to mix it up a little bit like I did, get a little bit younger. When an offer hits your value where it's like an offer you can't refuse, where it's just, oh, that's a great profit. Even though I like this card, time to move on.
You might like it, but you don't love it.
Right. And if it's not a card that you're going to keep forever, then that flip could help you get something that you really want to invest in. We
Exactly.
also had like when it's time to not take a deal, which when that doubt creeps in and
Move
you
on.
have to ask multiple people, just move on because you're going
The
to have
writing's
that
on the
buyer's
wall.
remorse. How about that buyer's remorse you would have felt if you got that Pulisic?
$750 is not chump change.
No, that's a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying. So I will enjoy having a little spending money at the next show. And then the last one, when it's time to move on from a card, when both parties are happy with the deal. And it goes to a collector too. Someone who really likes that player.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? It's so much easier to do deals knowing where the card's going to. It's almost like you're shepherding this card on its journey, like what PJ's cards did to me with the JJ Redick. Like if he had that listed on eBay, he might be asking, 25, however much money it's worth. But since he knows it's going to a friend and somebody who he's done deals with in the hobby, he knows it's going to a good place. Like that makes you feel so much better about giving up your card.
I think a lot of people would agree with this. And maybe a few might be indifferent, but it feels way better selling a card to someone knowing their sole intention isn't just to flip it.
Right.
Tell me if you agree with that.
Oh, I definitely agree. And even if your goal is to flip it or it has not flip it, but like potentially sell it.
Sure.
Like what you did with the Weah. Like you like that card. Like that's one of the things too, being comfortable with your collection, referencing our last episode again, is like you get a card that you're fine putting in your collection, holding for a while. But if the right opportunity comes and it feels like it's time to move on, then moving on from the card, like I did with that Bill Russell. I got that Bill Russell right after he passed away. And I just thought it was a way, I guess it kind of seems silly, but a way to pay homage to Bill. And you're holding up another same year of that card, but the orange. I think that's numbered out of 15. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
And so
And
that's like the same thing.
I would feel guilty moving on from this because it's my only Bill Russell autograph, and my collection almost feels incomplete without a Bill Russell.
Yeah. So I'm going to be on the hunt for another Bill Russell. You can believe that. But I remember that moment and I was so like emotionally moved by his passing and how much of a winner he was and how determined he was to do everything it took, blocking shots and running the fast break and not being a main scorer and then passing away. And it felt like the right amount of time, or at least enough time came to where I'm like, okay, I've had this for 6 months or longer. And now it's time to just freshen up the collection a little bit. And so that's why it felt like it was time to move on from that emotional moment connection I had to that card at the time, moving on into something now I can watch growth of the future, like you said, with Giannis.
Before we wrap up here, teasing the next 2 episodes, we got a special guest on next week. We won't spoil it. We'll save that. You could probably infer who it might be if you're a regular listener, but regardless, we'll wait. And then the following weekend before Christmas break, a little Secret Santa. And there are only 2 participants in the Secret Santa, you and I. So,
Right.
but I want to give a shout out to 3 people. Pro Send Cards, my buddy Steve. Downtown Soccer Cards, my buddy Jeremy. And Glorious Purpose, Frank. So all soccer card friends. And I met them just through the hobby community. We're all collect soccer cards together. We're all New York City, New Jersey people. And I watched the USA game this Saturday at Jeremy's apartment. His wife, his kids were there. And I just think it's really cool that a game and a team that's so important to me. They're very select people I would watch that game with, but it's 3 genuine friends in life that I met and know through soccer cards. So we talk about the cardboard here, we talk about the deals, but let's not also forget about the relationships and the genuine friendships, like the one you're looking at or listening to right here, that form through cards. So forget about the drama that you might see out there. We like to keep it positive. Let's remember at the end of the day, this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. And no, that was great. And the friendships are just so precious. I mean, it sounds cliche or corny, but it really is. And one of my favorite things about doing this with you is that I know that your heart is in the right place, and that, I mean, you truly mean that. And I cannot wait for this Secret Santa. Well, I can't wait for our special guest, but we can't reveal it. So I can't really talk too much more about our special guest without revealing who it is. But it'll be a great discussion. I cannot wait for our live opening of our presents on the episode in 2 weeks from now. And I have a feeling that it's going to be of a similar ilk to some cards that we've displayed on the podcast so far. We're going to get our live reactions to the gifts.
It will.
We're going to get our live reactions to the gifts that we've given to each other, and just continue having fun with the podcast.
That's it. I don't know. I don't know if I have any. There is some shows coming up this week. I don't know if I can make it, but I am sure I'll find a way to buy or look at some cards this week, and I hope you do the same.
Yes, and I can't wait to get these cards in the mail and show them off in person. And I just found out my work has loosened restrictions on the sweeps rating period. So that used to be like when you get your ratings on TV news, no one was allowed to take vacation. Like, we need all hands on deck. Everybody's got to be there. No vacations. And now they've loosened that a little bit. I feel like with the COVID work policies, things have loosened up. There's been more workers' rights and people advocating like work is not as important as it used to be. We need personal time. So all that to say that it looks like I'll be available in February to go to the Burbank Sports Card Show, which I am really, really excited about, and meet up with some friends. I know our buddy Ken at Sports Card Lessons is headed out there. And so more hobby content and hobby show stuff to come, because I couldn't believe, Craig, our San Francisco sports card vlog, when I went to the San Francisco card show, got more than 1,000 views, and we got 15 subscribers off of it. And so it seems like people really love to see what's going on at the shows.
Yeah, you crushed that video, and I've never been a video content person myself, but I definitely hope at an upcoming event I get a chance to shoot something, and eventually you and I are going to have to meet up in person, and that content's going to be fire, but we'll figure that out in the future.
And we'll have the music dun, 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 while we're walking toward each other. I can see it now.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, it took me a second to understand what you were saying there. All right. But hey, until next time, thanks for listening. We are hitting double digits next week. You be well.
Special guest, big guy in the hobby. Episode 10.
Peace. Episode 9. Next week's 10.
That's what I was getting at. All right, peace.